There's a specific kind of silence that happens when you haven't created anything in a long time. It isn't a peaceful silence. Almost feels like a low frequency hum in the back of your mind. A constant, nagging reminder that there's something you should be doing, and yet the bridge to get there has been washed out by the tides of daily life. Usually, we're told that we just need inspiration. We're told to go for a walk, look at a sunset, or scroll through a gallery of other people's successes. But inspiration is a fickle thing to rely on. It's a fair weathered friend that only shows up when the conditions are perfect. Most of the time, the absence of that spark isn't about a lack of ideas. It isn't that your brain has run dry or that you've suddenly lost your ability to see the world. It's about the friction between who you are today and the version of yourself that used to find this easy. So join me once again on a quest to become a better artist while we talk about finding your spark again. When we stop creating for a month, or a year, or a decade, the tools in our hands start to feel like foreign objects. The weight of a pencil feels different. The way the paint resists the water feels like a personal rejection. If you're starting at a blank page right now and feeling nothing but a slight sense of guilt, I want you to know that you're not alone and that you're not broken. You're just out of practice and slightly out of touch with your own hands, body, and mind. You've been speaking the language of logistics, of schedules, of to-do lists. And while those languages are functional, they don't have words for the way a certain brush move makes you feel. You have to learn that vocabulary all over again. My relationship with this creative space changed a lot when my life got louder. A lot louder and far more hectic. For a long time, the shift was purely physical. There was the arrival of a child, then the blur of the current toddler years. Lost between the relentless, exhausting logistics of keeping a small human alive and thriving. The art didn't stop because I didn't care about it anymore. It stopped because my bandwidth was being consumed by a different kind of creation. When you're pouring your life force into another person, there's often very little left over for the digital canvas. We are told we can have it all, but we aren't told that having it all often feels like being spread so thin you've become transparent. Often you start to view your time through the lens of efficiency. You begin to audit every minute of your day. You think to yourself, if I only have 20 minutes before the next task, it's not worth getting my tools out. And it's definitely not worth the cleanup. It's not worth the effort of trying to remember where I left off last time. We easily become so used to being useful to everyone else, being the solver of problems, the wiper of tears, the manager of a household, that the idea of doing something purely for the sake of watching pixels move across the screen feels almost indulgent. It feels like a waste of time because it didn't produce something tangible, like a meal or a clean floor. But that friction, that feeling that it's not worth it, is exactly where the spark is buried. It's buried under the weight of being productive. We often wait for a season of life that feels clearer or better. We tell ourselves that once we reach a certain point, then we will find our spark again. We treat creativity like a reward for finishing our chores. But the truth is, life is never going to be clear enough. There will always be a new chore, a new crisis, a new reason to put yourself at the bottom of the list. The spark doesn't return because the external world got quiet. It returns because you decided to be loud in the middle of the chaos. Because getting your spark back requires a certain amount of defiance. It requires you to look at a messy kitchen and say, I see you, but I'm going to ignore you for 15 minutes while I draw this leaf. It feels rebellious because it is. In a world that demands your constant attention and labor, choosing to make something useless can be an act of liberation. But it's also about changing your definition of what making art actually looks like. If you're waiting for the day you can spend 6 hours in a sun-drenched studio with a glass of wine and no interruptions, you might as well be waiting a lifetime. And that's okay. The art you make in the cracks of a busy life has a different energy. It's more honest. It's born out of a necessity to survive and create, not just a desire to decorate. So, how do we actually do it? How do we move from the hum of guilt to the stroke of a brush? First of all, you have to start by lowering the stakes until they're touching the floor. If the world art feels too heavy, stop using it. Call it tinkering or messing around. Call it let's see what this pen does. When the goal is a masterpiece, the pressure can be paralyzing. But when the goal is just to see how two lines look when they touch each other, the pressure almost vanishes. One practical thing I did was to create a low resistance kit. For a long time, my art supplies were tucked away in a beautiful box, organized and pristine. But the effort of taking them out, setting them up, and knowing I'd have to put them all back was enough to stop me before I even started. Now I keep a sketchbook and a single black liner pen on the nightstand. I've learned that I don't need a studio, I just need a surface. I've made art on the back of junk mail while waiting for the microwave. I've sketched the shapes of the shadows on the wall while sitting on the floor of a playroom. By making the tools accessible, I removed the friction. I made it easier to start than not to start. But also another tip is to give yourself permission to be bad at it. After a long break, your eyes are still sharp, but your hands are very rusty. You will see the mistakes more clearly than the successes. This is the danger zone where most people quit. They think to themselves, I used to be a lot better than this, and there's no point anymore. You have to be willing to be a beginner again. You have to be willing to make a lot of ugly things to get to the one beautiful thing. Getting your spark back isn't just about what you do with your hands. It's about what you do with your eyes as well. Most of our days are spent in narrow focus. We're looking for the keys, looking for the red light to turn green, looking at the screens. To be an artist is to move into wide focus mode. It can be as easy as noticing the way light filters through a glass of water, or the specific shade of gray in a rain cloud, or the rhythmic pattern of the tiles on the floor. You can practice this even when you're not holding a brush. You can practice it while you're doing the dishes, by just looking how the light refracts in the bubbles you're making. This is a sensory reconnection. Motherhood and life in general is often a sensory overload. We tend to shut down our senses just to cope with the noise and the daily demands. But when we reclaim our sense of pleasure, rather than just for utility, the spark begins to flicker again. You're allowed to be a person who exists outside of your responsibilities. Being a caregiver, a worker, a fixer, those are roles you play, and they are important roles. But the person who finds joy in the texture of paper or the flow of ink, that is who you are. Reclaiming your spark is really just an act of reclaiming yourself. It's a way of saying, I'm still here. My inner world is still vast, even if my outer world has become small for the moment. So as you watch me create this sketch in the late hours of the night, I hope you feel a little bit of tension leaving your shoulders. The process you see here isn't about perfection. It's about the movement. It's about the decision to show up, even when I'm tired, even when I don't have a good idea or enough time. So if you're in a season where you feel lost, please be gentle with yourself. Your spark isn't a candle that can be blown up by a gust of wind. It's more like a bed of coals in a fireplace. On the surface, it might look gray and cold, but if you poke at it a little, if you clear away the ash and give it just a little bit of oxygen, you'll find the heat is still there. In fact, it's been there the whole time, waiting for you to come back and tend to it. You're a different person now than you were the last time you felt creative. You have more depth now. You have more resilience, and you have a different understanding of love, sacrifice, and of time. Your art will be different now too. It might be simpler, it might be darker, it might be more vibrant, but it will be yours. Don't wait for the right time. Don't wait until you feel like an artist again. Just pick up a tool, any tool, and make one mark. Then make another. The bridge is being built as you walk on it. Take your time. The colors aren't going anywhere. The paper is patient. And you are allowed to take up space. Thank you for spending these minutes with me. Now, if you can, go and find one small thing to make. Not for the internet, not for your family, not for a profit, just for you. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.